First of all, DeVon, I want to say that I feel like it takes a woman is coming at the perfect time because we're right on the heels of Mother's Day.
Yeah.
So was that planned or was it
Uh,
just very serendipitous?
it was serendipitous. I've been working on this for a couple of years, and it just was amazing that, once it was finished and when Audible wanted to release it, it all just coincided. And you're right. I mean, it's very serendipitous. It's like the perfect time to release it. And I'm excited to see how it's going to impact people, especially at this time during the year.
Absolutely. One thing that I never knew about you until listening to the introduction, I guess that's my bad because I'm pretty sure you've talked about it in several
Right.
realms, but you losing your father at 9 years old.
Yeah.
And it takes a woman really is putting into perspective for you how um, five women, six, including your mom, have helped shaped you spiritually, mentally, kept you kind of off the streets and on the right path. So, what I found really interesting is thinking back at your 9-year-old self. What were some of the steps that you took to kind of process your grief of losing your father at that time?
Yeah, well, in the book, it takes a woman, which I'm so, just blessed and feel so grateful to be able to have done, and to put this audiobook in the world with the voices of my mom and my five great aunts. And in the book, I talk about, part of the outlet to deal with the trauma was when my aunt, with her husband, Pastor DJ Williams, started a church in Oakland called Wings of Love. And they started this independent ministry the same year that my father passed away, and having the church as an outlet really helped me process my grief. And then also one of my aunts, Aunt Donna, who's also, her voice is also featured in the book. She really took a liking to me, when I was like 5, 6 years old. So having that type of connection with my aunt really helped me heal and process and allow me to kind of express what was going on the inside.
Now, when you wrote this book, you know, I know you were referred to as a different type of spiritual teacher by Oprah. So I feel that you're always teaching, but there's times that you may need someone to lean on. So is that where your aunts come in, or was the writing the book your kind of therapy?
I mean, my aunts have been with me and my mom been with me for my whole life. So, it's like a two-way street. Sometimes they're teaching, sometimes I'm teaching, it just depends, right?
Right.
But the book was really to be able to, do this book with Audible and create this Audible original. And, the thing about what's great about this book versus like a hardcover book is that the listener really gets brought into the story. And so you do hear, the story of my mother and, how she responded to my father's death, and then how she brought in my aunts to kind of help me and my brothers, navigate all this. And through the whole process, it was very therapeutic to do this. I mean, there's no doubt, like, this was a cathartic experience. What the listener hears when they hear this book, they hear conversations firsthand that we never had before. This is not produced in that way. Like, literally, when you're listening, you're hearing what my mother and my aunts had to say the same way I am. And so you hear the raw emotion. And so for me to do this, it was absolutely therapeutic. And, I'm hoping for the listener that it will be therapeutic for them too.
What have you, through your, self therapy through this book, what have you learned about yourself and maybe appreciated more about yourself? And the reason why I'm kind of asking and posing this question is because as I've gotten older, I've had different conversations with my mom.
Mm.
And I feel that when you get older, you can have those more candid conversations. My mom's understanding some things a little bit more, where I was in a place I got to before she did. Now she's in this enlightening period of her life, and we're having different conversations. So, what were some of those different conversations, and some things that you may have learned about your mother, your aunts, and yourself?
Yeah, in the book, I mean, the book really brings the listener into all of these lessons and, learning There's a chapter called If You Don't Know Me by Now. And I talk about me and my mother having one of the biggest arguments that we've had, pretty much in our life. And this was argument when I was a teenager. And from that day to this, we had never spoken about it until we were doing this book. And, and when you hear the fact that what I said to her has haunted her from that day to this, it's unbelievable. So I learned that, even with tragedy, when you look back, you can see how it all can work for triumph. I also learned that, when you have a strong village, you can make it through anything. And that's why I also wanted to do this book, because we're in a time where people are more disconnected than ever before, even though it seems like there's a connection through social media and whatnot. But a lot of people are lonely and isolated and don't feel a sense of community. And so what I learned is that with a village, with a community, you can make it through anything. And so doing this book, anyone listening, now my village is your village. And you can make it through anything, because now you have help and you have hope and you have, transparency and you have truth as experienced through this book.
Is that what you're hoping that It Takes a Woman will do, is help those that don't necessarily have that village or are lacking the guidance of, a mother or an aunt that really cares very deeply?
Yeah, for me, first and foremost, like I want, this to me is a tribute to single mothers. I think single mothers really are the unsung heroes of our culture and our community. And my mother was a single mother, and a lot of my aunts were single mothers. And so to be able to, do a celebration of the power and the impact of single moms, this book, It Takes a Woman, really, my greatest hope is that any single mother listening to this will feel valued and validated. In addition to that, I really, really hope that, yes, people will find healing in this book. When you listen to the book, there's so much transparency. It's the rawest, realest thing I've ever done. And to hear my mother and my aunts talk about their pains and their purpose and things that they wish they would have known and done differently, I think anyone listening to it, I think their life will be enriched. And so far, since the book has been out and people have been, letting me know what they think, and the responses and the testimonies have been just phenomenal. So my hope is that those who continue to listen will continue to be blessed, and really their lives will be changed in a positive way.
I was thinking as I was listening to the introduction and just how you've, put together this book and really highlighting women and giving them their props. What do you say to those? Because like you said, the society that we're in, I feel like kind of looks down on single mothers. I feel like women in general are kind of, especially with the men and women relationships, kind of it's a little sketchy nowadays. You hear these podcasts about these high value men, and they're going in on women that don't have this and don't have that, and you're beneath me type of deal. So, like, what do you say, or what's your theology or thought of those types of men? Do they need guidance? Do they need help? And do you think that It Takes a Woman can kind of help open up their perspective to be a little bit nicer to women? Because women do some great things here.
Well,
we do.
Whether it can do all of that, I don't know. You know what I mean? That's a tall order. But what I would say is, I think that any man listening to this book, I think that they will be deeply impacted. And I think, and I hope, and I pray that they would. If for some reason a man listening to this book is lacking in an appreciation.
So to continue where we got cut off, we were talking about how it seems there is a lack of appreciation for women nowadays. I've seen a lot of podcasts that talk about, I'm a high value man, and a woman with a child or a single mother is, looked down upon. So any words of wisdom to those fellas that are a little in their mind and delusional and not appreciating a woman and their hard work? And do you feel that, It Takes a Woman would be helpful for them to read?
I think it would be helpful for them to listen to. I think that any man listening to this Audible original, this audiobook will give them a greater appreciation for women if for some reason they're lacking in that appreciation. This book really shows the power of women. You hear the voices of my mother and my 5 great aunts. The youngest of my great aunts is 76 and the oldest is 96. So you really get a chance to get all that wisdom. And I think it would be hard for any man to listen to this and not really appreciate the sacrifices that women have made for us as men to be who we are and do what we've done in the world. And my hope is that through that appreciation, that if there is for some reason a lack of respect, that respect would be gained for women through listening to this book.
Yeah, absolutely. I was also wondering because, there's 6 women, right, in your life that you kind of, like you said, you bounce off information with, and they kind of tell you like, we're not feeling that one. Who would you say like is the strictest, or aunt, this aunt did not play when it came to this, or who you could go to for a little more a gentle ear,
Yeah, Aunt Enos was definitely the strictest for sure. And probably Aunt Donna was the most nurturing. So Aunt Enos was like, didn't take any mess. And, right behind her, it was really Aunt Ida, because Aunt Ida was running the church that we grew up in, Wings of Love. And so she was a disciplinarian. If we acted out in church, she let us hear about it. And, but it's funny because as they've gotten older, they all have kind of gotten, I would say softer, so to speak, and more nurturing. But growing up, they were pretty tough. They were tough, which I think laid the foundation for me and my brothers in such a strong way.
Do you think that we're losing those recipes? And when I say recipes, I'm not even talking about food. I'm talking about the recipes for life. A lot of grandmothers now are younger, and back then, I don't know. I just feel like you said, everyone was involved. I mean, you couldn't go over, well, I had an Aunt Inez, but you couldn't go over certain aunt's house and just like, even grandma didn't play that. When it was time for church, y'all better be quiet in church. I feel like sometimes there's a lack of that now.
Yeah, I think that when people listen to this book, I think that it's one of the reasons why I wanted to do it is to preserve, our culture, to preserve the blueprint, right? To preserve the voices. So, anyone listening to this, when you talk about, how it used to be, now it can be that way now because you're hearing, oh, got it. You're hearing the value of wisdom. You're also hearing, here's what happens when you don't do certain things. There's a whole chapter in It Takes a Woman where the listener can hear about money, and all the different choices that the aunts the village wish they would have made differently about money, a closet full of clothes, but don't own a house, all of these things. So I think when you talk about, how we were all raised and hearkening back to that discipline and maybe not seeing that discipline in this generation, I do think that this book can really help bring some of those lessons and wisdom back so that we never forget. And maybe we rely upon that now to help us get where we're trying to go.
Right. Absolutely. Well, I think it's a great gift for Mother's Day, and not only that, just like you said, to get that wisdom, and to get a deeper, knowledge and understanding about life, because these women have lived it.
Yes, they have. They have hundreds of years of life experience collectively when you add them all together. So they got a lot of wisdom and they know what they're talking about.
Right. So the Audible did launch on April 21st, but are you guys, just releasing each episode, or has all been kind of just
it's
released?
a book, so it's out. I mean, it's an audio.
Okay. So it's an audiobook
right now.
Okay. I didn't know if it was like, kind of like a podcast
No,
it's just
not a podcast. Yeah.
Okay.
No, audiobook. So people can go to Audible right now and listen to it right now and get your Kleenex ready, get your popcorn. Like it's a story that will make you laugh and make you cry and uplift your spirit along the way.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, DeVon, for talking to me today. We've chatted before in LA, It was so long ago. So this is a good refresher, because I feel like when we were chatting, it was you and your ex-wife at the time, and I didn't get to talk to you much. So this gives me a better, deeper understanding of you and who you are. So thank you so much for taking the time out.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right.